What is your parenting personality? This being a personality channel, I talk about personalities. And I recall somebody saying to me once, I may not have been the best father, but I sure was a great dad. And I thought that was interesting. Being a dad myself now, I've got 2 under 2, and I'm learning every day. Many of you have authority, far more than me on this one, many kids over. But I'll tell you that there is something unique about what that phrase meant to me and what it could mean for you if you're considering parenthood, or rather what you can think of your parents in a different way. May you have a bad, horrible relationship with them currently, or everything's totally fine and you just want to understand them better. And this could be fascinating. All right, let's jump into it. So we all know that there are thinker and feeler families, or a blend. I come from a feeler dominant family. So anytime somebody was irritated or something emotional was going on, we would all know, everybody in the house. There was no like, that's stupid, that's illogical, nothing like that. It was very much like, uh-oh, they're having a hard moment. They're not trying to give us a hard time. Let's go check on them. And for the most part, a family of feelers, yeah, there was emotion, but there was always this on the same page-ness. And from somebody who, studied psychology, philosophy, communications, I changed my major 7 times in college and ended up in public speaking, actually. I did sales for 10 years, and it always came down to communication. So there's my clout with this as well. And I'm going to tell you that if anybody in your family has a dissonance, just have a conversation. Just have a conversation. Thinker families don't tend to do that. They just don't. Especially thinker-judger families. That is what I also noticed. They don't value that feeler type of relationship as much. It's more about what's logical and what can bring money to the family, or we're gonna have a fun time and here's the plan for that. We better have fun on my terms. Things like that. So I've noticed that in other dynamics, but feel free to share yours. This is just my opinion. But we can go through kind of some cognitive stacks here, some Myers-Briggs letters, and kind of figure out what your parenting personality is, or what it would be, or what your parents are, and how that relates to you. Because the parent does not always share the same personality with the child. In fact, most of the time, you do not have the same personality type as your parent. If you notice that, that's fascinating. So it's rare to have a child be the same as one of the parents. That being said, the question really comes down to, as far as your parenting personality, is am I a great mom or mother, or a mix of both? Or would you consider yourself to be a great dad or father, or a mixture of both? Now, of course, the healthiest answer we can all assume is a mixture of both. Basically, the implication is, as the mother or father name, and I have seen families that require their children to call them mother or father. That is a different type of dynamic as well. You can tell that is probably a TJ type of family, and you're spot on with that one. And I would think that if you have a mother or father label, then you are somebody who is in control and a rule enforcer by nature. So again, that's a J type of parenting. So judger, so there you go for your Myers-Briggs side of that. And of course, if those rules are consistently enforced, being an FP personality type myself, the very opposite of that, I have a difficult time enforcing my rules. Maybe you can relate to that. So it's not fun to say, no, do this, time out or whatever the thing is you're trying to enforce, and it's not cool, not irrational, it's irrational. Like, did they learn their lesson? Are they doing it again? And if they really need, that training, we could call it. And so that really comes down to how you see it. But a TJ type is going to be very much like, nope, go to your room and stay there until I've decided that that's right, or whenever they make the rule for, and I don't know. I wasn't raised by a TJ parent, but I have temporarily lived with TJ parents, if that makes sense. My parent being on tour at the time, and I needed to go live with certain people. So I have been taught and parented. Anyway, enough about me. So just to wrap that up on the Myers-Briggs side, the J personality types, the judger types, have a much easier time being consistent. And frankly, after studying a lot about what I've been learning, being a dad and preparing to be a dad for these past few years, the most consistent you can be is the most helpful to the child, because then they can rely on you. It goes far deeper than trust. So consistency is huge, and that is probably the most defining natural letter difference when it comes to being a play buddy with your kids, a daddy and or mommy in this case, as far as these terms are being used in this video, and a mother versus a father. So a P type has a much easier type being a buddy to a kid, as far as what I've seen, and that's my filter on that. Feel free to share yours. But people require them to call them, mommy or daddy or something else. Or some people require by their first names. We don't call me that here. We call me by my first name. I've seen that. That's fascinating. So right off the bat, they had this maturity with their kid. We were professional. So that was interesting. You probably guess which type that was. Now, feeler versus thinker, we kind of went over that. Feeler families are very warm and usually on the same page with emotion and communication. Thinker types are, they're very good at bottling up emotion. There's no reason for that. Hold that in. This creates the random feeler of the family. Somehow, some of the kids relate to that. And then there's at least one or two, if depending on the family size, that becomes this mega feeler out of that dynamic I have seen. They kind of just have this implosion volcano of emotion, and that makes them this feeler or somebody who's traumatized on the third letter because they were not allowed to feel or express emotion. So that's heavy. Let me know if you are that black sheep in your thinker family. Okay, so let's move on. Let's look at the second and first letter of Myers-Briggs and see how this fit in with your family. So did your parents bring in friends when you were having an upbringing? Did they bring in people to help raise you? Did they need to? Did they need a break from you, essentially, is kind of what I'm implying in that question. Or did you go live with people for a while? Did they need to take time away from you? Was there something going on between your parents that wasn't keeping them together, and so they needed that because of that? It had nothing to do with personality. There's a lot of layers to that type of question, and so you can't just say, oh, my parent being an extrovert or introvert liked me around or not. That is very different. In fact, this is the first letter is the most difficult to type yourself with because it has nothing to do with you. It has something to do with how you are around others. And people can see that you light up, or you kind of, have to prepare yourself to socialize. Many people think that they're extroverts and really they're not, and vice versa. But I don't think that has anything to do with parenting, your parenting personality, that first letter, because in the inner circles of family and friends, we can tell that it becomes more difficult because you know that person on a social level or on a more intimate level. And so their extroversion or introversion has really no play for you because you're already a part of that inner circle. So that can be a very liquid appearance. Can have a liquid appearance for you, outside looking in and inside looking out. So really, if your parent likes going to the grocery store and talking to everybody, that's a pretty obvious extrovert parent. And if you were raised by a neighborhood, nowadays we really raise our kids alone. And they used to have a neighborhood to help raise a kid. There was the farms and all of that. So a whole community knew about everybody. That is not much the case these days. I'd love to chat about finances and the horrible things going on in the world right now as far as people wanting kids or scared to because of that. And so I would love to have a conversation about that. That is a whole other thing. But I've been blessed to have what we have here. And the things I'm learning about parenthood, my respect for my parents goes way up, as well as all of you who have kids and all of that, or are wanting to. All right, now we have another conversation. We could talk about people who can't have kids or struggle to. That's a whole different video, but that has nothing to do with your parenting personality. So let's keep it to that for this channel. I hope I'm posting this on my personality channel. Okay, finally we have that second letter. That is the biggest letter in personality, intuition versus sensing. Many people don't seem to quite understand that, or as far as what that means for their parent or what they do as a parent. And really what that comes down to is awareness. And a sensor is so present, or at least a very strong sensor. You can develop or underdevelop these functions, right? Or being a weak intuitive but a stronger sensor, even though you're still an intuitive, which is a good thing, I think, as far as a parent goes in safety regarding safety. So if the kid is climbing up on something and the intuitive is, very much involved in something else, and this can go for either type, you need to be aware of what's going on. They'll climb on things, they'll grab things that they shouldn't. It's about awareness. So when the older you get, I think that bond becomes more profound if you have two intuitives, a parent to child. Let me know your dynamic with that with a parent. But there can be a dissonance between sensory and intuitives when one parent is one way and the kid is the other way. But if you're both one type, I think you have a stronger bond. If you're both sensors, you both relate sensory. If you're both intuitives, you both relate on intuition. However, when they're little, you need to be highly sensory, and that can wear out the intuitives. I have seen that too, because they're just like, oh, I'm exhausted, versus a sensory who's just like, I'm distracted. Like, I want to be doing these things, but I'm doing these 7 other things over here. Like, it's very much like go, go, go. So let me know your dynamic on that, because intuitives want to be in their head, not, that's the very definition of intuition. So that's a topic that I would love to expound on. Have you guys share with me your thoughts on that, because I'm learning every day, man. There is so much to learn with these little things. I love them so much, and I'm just noticing what kind of parent I'm becoming and what kind of parenting I've had. I'm grateful to my parents. If you're watching this, for you, I hope I can be the best parent I can be. I want to be a daddy and a father. I'll be right there in the middle, so that we have respect mutually and we have a lot of fun. Love you, and I hope all is well within your parenting or being a parent journey.